So welcome to another thrilling episode of Arena of History. I'm going to be doing something a little different today because I'm going to be doing this video with my old partner in crime from Johhny and the Professor, Johhny Manson. Hey, Johhny.
Ahoy!
So we're going to, this is different. We're obviously using Zoom, and of course it's only being watched by the federal government, the Chinese government, whoever else what we're doing. So hey, it'll work in the long run. So
Right.
what would you like to talk about today, Johhny?
Should we talk about Afghanistan?
Everybody else is. I mean, I guess it's probably something we did. I just did a little video on it, but of course we've had news today that, that there was a suicide bomb today that killed about 13 American troops and an unknown amount of civilians. And of course, President Biden had prepared for all contingencies, so that doesn't surprise him, I guess.
Right. I was looking back to a 2017 video of President Trump saying, I've looked at all the information and I've looked at everything from every possible angle, and it doesn't make sense for us to pull all of our troops immediately from Afghanistan, because if we did that, it would be overrun by terrorist organizations, and that would be a horrible thing for us to do, and a bunch of other stuff. I just thought it was kind of, ironic, I guess.
It is ironic and tragic and sad too, unfortunately, for everybody involved, because Biden is a dimwit. I mean, there's just no way of saying about it. He's just such a tool, and we're just
think a Biden voter.
Yeah, it's just, you guys, if you voted for Biden and you went along with all this nonsense, you should think about the fact that all the things that people are going to die, all the hostages are going to be taken. And this because this president doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, you can dislike Trump as much as you want, but Trump had a phased plan that was, you do this and I'll do this, and you show you're peaceful and I'll do this. And if you don't do it, I'll just escalate up and start bombing you again. It wasn't any,
right.
It was exactly the way you need to handle it. So right now we have, troops in Afghanistan defending an airport rather than a base, because Biden gave the base up. We have no bases in the country. There are no nations in the area that will let us deploy from our troops from that area. We left behind $86 billion in military equipment. The Taliban is probably one of the best armed armies proportionally in the world right now, because they've got our equipment.
Good call.
I know. I mean, I was listening and doing some research on this. 750 vehicles plus, over 200 aircraft. They have the largest fleet of Blackhawks of just about any of the 80% of the nations of the world right now. That's 600,000 guns, weapons, what the Army likes to refer to as small arms, but that also includes things like, like rocket launchers and other things too that fall in that category. Not to mention biometric gear that has their fingerprints, people's eye scans, and the biographical information of people who've helped us for the last 20 years.
Why don't we send Black Lives Matter over there, and they can throw their tantrums in Afghanistan and just take it all down? You notice that they've stopped the rioting.
I know, very much so.
There's no more rioting.
Well, they're trying to be quiet now because they're afraid that it gets, that too much rioting, they're going to end up hurting and getting Biden out of the office, which is actually a pretty good thing when you get right down to it. It's really strange, Johhny. I had a thought about this, which is always a dangerous thing, of course, for me when I have thoughts, that we have above Afghanistan, you have the Central Asian nations. And most of those, are former satellites of the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union, Russia, is not actually handling it the way that it did before. Putin, unlike Biden, is saying, we're not going to recognize any government until you show us what your intentions are. It's weird when Vladimir Putin, who's a murdering KGB monster, is actually a better statesman than our president. But I mean, above Afghanistan, you have Turkmenistan, you have Uzbekistan, you have Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, and I think there's I don't give a damn Stan. But the point is, they're all the border nations with Afghanistan. And they're very concerned because, gee, refugees are just supposed to come into their country and be saved by them. Well, they don't want them because they're going to be filled with ISIS-K and Al-Qaeda. So, I mean,
Right.
Putin may have an interesting possibility at this point of actually forming together some kind of a Soviet Union again, based on the common enemy of terrorism out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Of course, because Pakistan backs the Taliban, they've been doing it since we chased them out in the beginnings of this war. Pakistan, who we gave money to, and they just simply gave it back to the Taliban, and back, of course, Al Qaeda and anything else. Of course, because they have their own version of the Taliban there, they're trying to keep them from destabilizing their government, which would be a horrible idea, because then you'd have one thing you don't want is Al Qaeda in charge of Pakistan, because Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So,
yep,
just what a wonderful
good call.
What a wonderful world we're living in. Well, Joe Biden has been wrong at every foreign policy decision in his career. So,
but hey, we have $4 a gallon gas now.
Because
I mean, that's good, right?
But the Germans have their gas cheap because he made sure the pipeline to Russia got stayed open. I swear, maybe he's just doing this all because Putin has the stuff on his son enough to put him in prison, whatever, forever.
Has dirt on him?
And maybe it is.
You mean like they did to Trump?
Yeah, it could be, but of course, on the other hand, in the case of Hunter, there really is. It's for real live dirt because the guy. I have video. I can pull video of him smoking crack.
Right.
How much more do you need?
Inflation's going up. I noticed food prices are increasing. I heard a rumor that the government's buying up land, like crop land, or what do you call that? Land that you grow food on.
You mean farmland? That would be the idea.
Yeah, that would be it. Farmland. Farmland.
Yeah.
At least that's what I heard. Maybe you can look into it.
I've heard some minor stuff on it, but nothing specific. I also heard that China's trying to buy up our cropland, and Bill Gates wanting to buy up our croplands too. I guess everyone wants our cropland.
Yeah, I heard about Gates. But China's been buying our assets for years now, though. So, I mean,
yeah, but for what they're, China's assets are probably in more danger than they want to believe. They're looking at an advantage of moving it into Afghanistan because Afghanistan does have rare metals, which of course are used in high tech, which of course China wants to control all of them. But Japan's actually kind of cut them in that recently too. And it's interesting when you look at international news. Because I don't just look at our news, because our news I find generally pretty sad. When you listen to foreign news, you find out things like that India is actually putting a lot of pressure on China right now, and Japan is actually working up coalitions with India and South Korea that have the United States having kind of vacated the scene as a leader because of course we don't have a leader because we have a house plant. They don't. Other nations are beginning to step up and figure out they may have to handle some of this themselves. And remember, India's economy is almost as big as China's. Their population's only slightly below them, and they have a better military. There was a little skirmish recently on the border between India and in the Himalaya region, where they had some Chinese forces had been put in, new forces had been put in, and they ended up having a skirmish with soldiers from both sides. But they weren't going to use weapons because they didn't want to actually make it like a war. So they fought hand to hand. And apparently India lost 30, China lost 200, and the Indians basically kicked the Chinese ass and chased them out. So I mean, India's not worried about the Chinese army. I mean, the economy, we're looking for inflation. Inflation's already starting to happen, and all of a sudden they're trying to reinforce COVID restrictions. Again, because the Democrats have to keep COVID in place. If they don't have COVID in the next elections, how are they going to be able to send out mail-in ballots? Nobody can track. As long as Democrats need untrackable mail-in ballots to win elections, they're going to keep pushing COVID. And you know something strange about that. I was thinking about this recently. I read an article. I'm going to do something here that we may or may not use. This is a mask. I worked, as you know, I worked for the census. This is the government issued cotton mask that they gave. It's supposed to be workable. And there's a very simple test you can do. All you have to do is put your glasses up to the mask and go, and they fog. So my point is, what the hell are we being told is the real value of these? If I can breathe vapor through it to fog my glasses, then a goodly portion of the water vapor I'm breathing out is passing through it, either through it or around it. So what's the point? I can show you something that works that'll stop it, but you do this. I can't fog my glasses through my hand. So if anybody tells me put on a mask, I'm just going to go like this. I'm sorry, this is way better than a mask.
Well, you know, I sent that video from some years back of Fauci on TV saying, you know, there's no need to wear masks. Masks don't work, blah, blah, blah. I sent it to my sister who's, you know, been brainwashed into the Democrat Party. And she sent me some, you know, Associated Press link about, you know, out of context things and, you know, just trying to justify and totally ignore what he says in his own words.
I know he literally.
You know what I mean?
It's a bizarre form of cognitive dissonance when you're confronted with something that you can't believe, and therefore your mind will restructure it so that you have. This would be the argument for I'm going to know because of dealing with you at Strange Harbor. If somebody actually saw a Sasquatch, and I believe there's a Sasquatch too, and I know you do, you also do. There's Sasquatch. Their mind would not be able to accept it, and they will make it into something else. And that's exactly what's happening here. But the left has pushed so hard to keep people so afraid from Donald Trump. Orange man going to kill you. Orange man going to put you in concentration camps. Orange man bad. That people spent 4 years in a state of almost panic. And because of that, their ability to reason, that affects your reasoning capabilities. And now Trump is gone, but they're still trying to make him the villain. It's like he doesn't have any power to withdraw forces or put forces in Afghanistan, but somehow he's supposed to be the blame because Biden, it was Trump's plan. I go, you didn't implement Trump's plan. I don't understand it. You may have an answer to this, at least you're in your strangeness of your thinkings. Do you think Biden's actually in charge then?
I don't know. I've heard things from Biden's a clone to, you know, he's not in charge and somebody's pulling the strings to, you know, he's an idiot. I don't know. It's just
I wouldn't go clone. He's a clown, but not a clone. When they send in the clowns, Joe Biden immediately shows up. They should say send in the clowns, play the music every time he turns around and walks away from a press conference. But I wonder because it seems like then it isn't just that he's a venal house plant that doesn't know what he's doing. There are a lot of people in his administration who apparently don't have any idea of what the hell they're doing. I mean, they pulled out an army and left behind the civilians and the ones who helped us. Are you guys? Are they just morons, or do they?
Well, maybe they're deliberately trying to create an issue, and the Democrats do this a lot. They create the problem so they can solve the problem and say, look at me, I solved the problem. Look, we did this. We fixed the Afghan problem. Well, it was the problem you created, but they won't identify that they created the problem. But they'll say, oh, we fixed it, or you better vote for us because we need to fix this problem and we're the ones to fix it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes as much a sense of anything, because honestly, I mean, I've looked at incompetent administrations. I've looked, I mean, Woodrow Wilson's administration, he had a stroke. His wife was pretty much running the White House and isolated entirely. FDR was, you know, was paralyzed in a wheelchair, still all the different things. You know, we have had McKinley was assassinated, Roosevelt had to go, all these changes in our government in the course of administrations. But this one doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, it's just like they're trying to do what you're saying, they think it's all spin and they can just lie their way through it. I mean, Biden's been getting away with it. I mean, the press has been covering for him. So, I mean, but at some point, you know, do they just think that they're invulnerable? That, you know, and that now that we have the elections so we can rig them, does it really matter what the American people want? I mean, and that sounds,
Yeah.
you know, and that sounds conspiracy theory, people. And that, you know, if I'm posting this on YouTube, which I plan on, I'll probably get it pulled because or censored because of that. And hey, I'm looking for the day that I get censored from YouTube. That would be a good thing for me.
Well, make sure you post it to Rumble also, because you should be able to keep it on Rumble.
Give it on Rumble.
You know.
I also put it up on locals.com. You can find me there under Arena of History. For anybody who's looking at this on YouTube, if you can't find me, if you lose me there, you'll go to Locals and find me. And I'm also have an account on Rumble. I'm going to be posting on there too.
Right.
Well, thank you for doing. See you later. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Bye.
If you wish to join the quest for knowledge, the battle for truth, please hit the like button, recommend my channel to others, and of course, subscribe. Thank you kindly.